broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hello and welcome to another episode of House of Cards, Season 3. Whoa, we have a mosquito in here. Episode 5, Chapter 31, After Show. My name is Pegah Rad. You can find me on Twitter at Pegah Rad. And my lovely co-host joining me tonight, and every night.
Hello, everybody. My name is Autumn Chiklis, and you can find me at Twitter at Autumn Chiklis.
I'm Julian Dujarric. I don't want to get bit. I'm Julian Dujarric, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram and all across social media at Julian Dujarric.
Hi there, I'm Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. So happy to be here.
Yay!
Yeah!
Now, before we get started, if you guys are listening to us on the AfterBuzz TV app, or if you're hearing us on iTunes, make sure to check us out on YouTube. We have over 100 shows a week that we make for you guys. So go comment and check all those shows out, and you can see what we're wearing. We look really cool. Autumn's looking gorgeous.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into the episode. A lot of moving pieces in this episode.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, we're definitely setting things up for what's going to come later this season, I think. This episode was all about just kind of getting the puzzle pieces in place, I think.
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. Everything you said. It's good to see this kind of setup because it's so early in the season, and so it's nice to like anticipate. Okay, is that for this reason or that reason? You kind of, at least I love to kind of put theories out there as to what I think is going to happen. So I like episodes like this that kind of set up the bigger stage.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the I spent a lot of this episode going, okay, what is this person's play? What is this person's plan? What are we going to doing? And then obviously going into prediction mode.
Yeah.
And like, well, if doing my own little chess pieces and going, well, if I move this here and then no, then the queen will take it.
Yeah.
So I was like going over in my head in my like House of Cards chess, which they should make. They should make a House of Cards chess set.
Yeah.
Don't put that out there. Don't put that out there because then you can make it.
I need to patent it.
You need to patent that.
Applying for patent tomorrow. Don't even try. Don't even try.
So the episode starts out with Frank trying to get the legal wordage about the whole FEMA relief funds and if he can use it or not. And basically it boils down to the president can call a national crisis if he wants. I mean, they looked at the verbiage and it was like, yeah, legally you could get away with this. I was like, what?
Well, legally you can get away with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I love that like it needed to be sufficiently vague enough that he could get away with this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what you're doing, you can get around enough barriers here because you're not saying anything specifically. And I think that's really funny that was what was needed to get this whole thing moving.
Yeah, and Silva's not buying it. Silva is not having
No, I know.
So Frank meets with Barney. He's the mayor of Washington, D.C., right? And he knows that if he can get him on his side to rally for AmWorks, then that's a great thing because he obviously can't take it to Congress. He knows that they're going to say no right away.
And what a spitfire this guy is. He's just trying really hard to just get people like riled up, and I love that.
Oh, wow. There was virtually no convincing on his part. Like,
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the first time we've ever seen anyone like get handed AmWorks and be like, yeah, let's do this, because everybody else has been so skeptical. It's so funny to finally have someone like fully on Frank's side with this.
Yeah, and I remember Frank looking into the camera and going, we need more people like this, or something like that. I was like,
Yeah, which is a little bit of a dangerous thing. Anytime Frank goes, you know who, we need more people like this, I automatically look at this person a little funny.
Yeah.
Because this person, not you, sweetie,
No,
but
no.
like this person, theoretical person, has something.
Yeah. Not to mention any
Something
names,
corrupt.
Pegah.
Yeah. Then we cut to Dunbar. She's doing her nomination tour.
Her
Is that
press
what we
tour
could
or
call
whatever.
her press
Yeah,
tour?
sure.
And she has John Pasternak, which is Michael Corrigan's husband, and she's on the Meredith Vieira show, and she's trying to be likable and
it's interesting because she's obviously bringing up, questions surrounding Frank's how Frank feels about the LGBT community.
Yes.
After he really, really dodged, what's her name? Isla's question.
Yes.
And so now I think like Dunbar's kind of trying to kind of point the big neon sign over in Frank's direction, kind of being like, he's not quite, he's not being he's not being very decisive with those kinds of things are concerned.
Yeah, if not decisive, he's being very dodgy.
Yeah.
He's completely avoiding his stance on it, which as social issues are concerned, you often see in politics them try to dodge because they know that they're hot emotional buttons for people, and that more often than not in modern day politics, the social issues are what determine the vote.
Right.
More often than not, even people who aren't very politically active go, I don't know what I believe in, but I am pro or against abortion, or I don't know what I believe in, but I know that I'm pro or against gay rights, and then they base their entire vote on that, not necessarily fiscal issues or what have you. So they're bringing that element into the show of, wait, here's a major social issue that no one has addressed, and in his personal life, we've seen some kind of weird stuff going on that we don't know if he's bisexual. We don't know if he's just there's certain specific people. I mean, we've seen him have a threesome. There's that sexual chemistry he had with his former
Meacham.
With
the college buddy.
With the college buddy, yeah. So I think that's going to be brought more to light.
Yeah. Speaking of the public vote, I think that's something that was really missing for me. That has kind of been answered at the end of this episode, but I kept wanting to know was like, how does the public feel about AmWorks? Because up until now, the only things that we as viewers can see is what the politicians and the media is saying about it. So far, and we only know what they are saying in terms of how that like manages their own agenda. We don't even know if what they're saying about AmWorks is actually how they feel about it, as long as just like what they're saying to other people about it is like. And so I was really, really interested this entire time to be like, what is the public reaction to this?
Right, and we'll get to the end obviously when you have the tent and all of the people, because I think you have.
But those are the people. Those are the unemployed people who need the jobs. What about like wealthy, gainfully employed Americans? How do they feel about this? And how do they feel about the reappropriations? We haven't heard anything about that.
I think the important thing is that it almost doesn't matter in this world.
True.
In this world, it's much more about how these people's agenda, how this serves or does not serve these people's agendas, which is why we don't really see much of the public opinion.
No, it's true. And this is not the first time this has happened, but it's hard with something like this, with this bill and the other bills that Frank has had, where it's kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this because I as a viewer, I'm only seeing what the politicians are saying, and I feel like the need to see what the public is saying, so I know that how I feel about it is how like I'm supposed to be feeling about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Jackie. Now, Frank wants Jackie to announce her candidacy, but he's doing it because they want to steal votes from Dunbar. They want to be able to steal the woman's vote. So she's got to play it up. She's got to get married, according to Remy, and, do that whole, I'm a married woman, I have a family, and kind of tend to all the women.
It's so funny because it's so not who she is at
not,
all.
Oh my God, can you imagine her?
She's like the anti-housewife.
Oh my God.
Yes. And then he wants her, to flip as soon as things go further, whatever, flip and become his VP.
All right. But how does that service her? That's my question. If she doesn't think that he's going to get reelected.
I know.
Why would she? I mean, obviously she has her own plan up her sleeve. Else she would not go along with this.
Does she not think? Well, then that probably she does think that he has a chance, because she doesn't seem like a dumb girl to me. She seems very smart, so I don't know that she believes that he won't be elected.
Well, then we've seen earlier her making deals with I'm blanking. Who did she make a deal with, saying I want the VP? No, she was talking to Remy when she said she wanted the VP ticket.
Yes.
You're right. She's a very smart girl, which is why I feel like everyone, unless she's in on the fact that Frank is ultimately going to pull off this big scheme, most people are in the camp that, yes, Frank is going to run, but there's no way he's going to win.
Yeah, maybe she has something else up her sleeve that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
Because she is smart. And you're right. Like,
does.
Now that we're talking about this, I'm like, do we think that Jackie thinks that Frank is actually going to win?
If she does, she has to be playing a major part in it, because we've been given, from a filmmaking perspective, we've been given no indication on her side that she has trust in Frank, which leads me, normally they'd show us a little hand, if you will, saying a snippet of her indicating in some way that she knows something about Frank's campaign or his plan, but we haven't been given that.
Well, maybe they're being restrictive, you know what I mean?
That's possible.
They just really want us to not see it coming, just like what they're doing with Doug right now. They really don't want us to know how, because, you know, especially with and I'll never remember his name, the guy who plays Doug. The way he performs that part is with no indication towards his emotions at all. And I think that that's a huge part of like how they want us to see Doug.
Yes, but that's intentional.
Well, yeah.
But we know there's a level of anonymity, or kind of there's an enigmatic attitude around him, because from a dramatic audience perspective, we know
that we're not
supposed to know, and we're supposed to be on the edge of our seat.
Yeah.
With Jackie, there's been no like, what is she like? We had the what is she up to, and then she said she wanted to be VP. But on Frank's ticket, there's been no. It's missing a layer to me.
Yeah, I almost feel like there's an easier way for her to become vice president than with there's a better bet out there than Frank.
Maybe we're just overthinking it. Maybe she just thinks that this is the best ticket for her to go on.
I just couldn't see an alternative. Like there may be a better alternative. I just don't see what that is. So
No, me
I
either.
think for her, this is the smartest play that she feels like she can make.
That's fair.
Maybe
I guess I'm just surprised that she's putting so much faith in him.
I was surprised. Yeah, I'm definitely surprised in that regard. I think maybe because she's so smart, we have to kind of give her the benefit of the doubt.
Maybe she'll just stay on and
Maybe.
be elected president. We never know.
Oh my
never know.
goodness.
I mean, yeah, but it's possible. Speaking of Doug, so he's watching Dunbar on the Meredith Vieira show, and he asks his therapist, like, would you vote for her? And she's like, yeah, she seems cool, you know? And this kind of triggers him to, you know, he goes in, and that's when she offers him a salary. Right? Is that?
He goes to her and offers his services.
When she's in Iowa?
Yes.
Is this before Iowa? I think it is. I think that was the second meeting.
I don't know, but she gives her him a low ball salary, and he says that he just wants to be valued, and he knows what he can do.
And I loved how smart that was, that he wasn't, if he was a mole, he would have taken the first offer.
Like, yes, I'll do it.
And even before Dunbar said that, I was like, oh, good job. That was smart. That was so smart.
Yeah, play hard to get a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't listen. I'm saying that I believe in you, but I'm not going to do it for no money. It's the classic double agent thing, where if you want them to believe you're sincere, do everything in the world to convince them that you don't care.
That you don't want to work for them. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So
how far do we think Doug will go, though, with this
Very
whole thing?
far.
All the way.
As far as he needs to go,
till the
and
very
probably
end.
even further, just in case. I think Doug has that kind of mentality. He will not stop until he achieves what he wants, and then he'll stick it in just a little bit.
And he's just going to play dirty, you know what I mean? That whole scene with him talking to Dunbar, being like, you need to, I don't remember, something about...
where he brings Claire's doctor's journal, the medical journal?
Yeah, that, but there was also another thing where, I'll never remember, but he was talking on the phone outside the physical therapist's office, and he was getting Dunbar to do something or to blackmail someone a little bit. And
I think
was like,
that might be in the next episode when you're talking about the prisons. Are you talking about?
I might be.
Okay, we'll go.
We'll get
Anyway,
there.
he's gonna get her to play dirty. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. And he has such... The thing that's very persuasive about Doug Stamper is the fact that he gets things done. And we've always seen him from the beginning of the series get things done in a way that no one else really does. And very silently. Even if Frank has always kind of been his puppeteer, he's doing a lot of the dirty work for him. He's getting his hands dirty. And so we know he'll go all the way for things that he cares about or that he thinks are going to benefit him. Yeah. I mean, he's feeding himself alcohol with a syringe. I mean, that's not exactly a mentally stable human being. I'm sorry if I offend any people who have that tendency, but
yeah, it's all the rage right
Sorry
now.
for all the alcohol syringe consumers.
It's okay, guys.
Yeah,
apology accepted.
Okay, I just want to make sure cover my bases. But in all seriousness, this is a guy who is not mentally stable and has done pretty heinous things in the past, and we see is willing to do heinous things in the future to serve his own ticket. So
Silent but violent.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that.
I want a
he was-
T-shirt with his face. Silent. I don't actually want a T-shirt.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do.
He was
Patent pending, part 2.
wow.
You're gonna make a lot of money.
I'm gonna make so much money off of my various House of Cards. I'm in the wrong business.
That's what I'm
Memorabilia.
saying.
Yeah, well, because Doug was supposed to burn that journal that had notes about Claire's abortion.
Yeah.
He
You
promised
think
he would burn it.
By the way, you think he would have done it because it was for the Underwoods.
You
and
would
he
think,
didn't.
but it
But
just shows
I-
like how ruthless
That
he is.
does
Like,
not surprise me.
Not
Yeah.
me
Not in
either.
not in the least.
Right away, I was just like,
Of course, right?
course.
Yeah.
I have too much faith in people.
and the
That's
way
so
he
Doug.
just kind of like shows her and pulls it, I'm like, oh
So
gosh,
cold.
It's so
he's
slimy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Just
ah.
And she didn't take much convincing either. She was like, I could never do this. Well, okay. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, there's some things that she does not want people to know. So
Yeah, she
you know,
lied on public television.
Yeah, of course. So she wants to keep it under wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So later that night, or I think it's that same night, Frank goes to Claire and asks her to read over a draft that he has. And I thought that was really cute. Like, she looks over, she makes a couple corrections, and then he sits down and goes, you've been in this room and I've never spent the night with you.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kind of closes off that conversation like, I have a flight to catch tomorrow morning. I need to get some sleep.
So sad.
And I'm like, oh, like, we're starting to see little bits of their marriage.
Little tears
maybe.
here and there. Yeah, I know. And it really does make us nervous as viewers because even though we see Frank and Claire do despicable things, at the end of the day, we want them to win. We just
see them
do.
do despicable things together.
Exactly. And so it's like, and we know that like the Underwoods are stronger together than they are apart. And so that's why, it makes us really, really nervous to see them, a little bit.
The couple that manipulates together.
Stays together.
or destroys an entire country.
There you go.
Depending. Claire, I love you, but damn it, why'd you do this? Well, I was.
She's losing her spark, isn't she?
I was just so upset with even just the little romantic thing. I was like, why don't you spend the night with me today? It wasn't even romantic. It was just sweet. It was just like I'm your husband. You know what? I'm the president and you are the UN ambassador, but we're also a couple. Like, and finally, and it was Frank of all people, and she's just like, I have a flight. Which like,
my sleep.
and it's not her usual like I'm too good for y'all. Get under my really expensive and wonderful designer shoes. It was more just I'm way too in my head and too busy and I don't care.
Yeah, and I just really think that she's not she's not as in control as she's used to being, and she's really starting to waver.
Except once in this episode at the end, which was a super power play.
Ooh,
We'll get back.
yeah. Well, I can't wait to get to that. So he goes and he plays this game on his iPad, which later on we'll find out
Isn't that so funny to see him like?
I think it was kind of silly.
And he was great. He's like laying flat down on the couch, and there's the chessboard was right in front of him, just to kind of hammer.
Still
home.
have a patent pending.
Yeah, right. But it was just so. It was so great to be like, this is like the most childish thing.
Nerd moment that shot too. The shot coming into that, which was like a slow impeding on, or just like a slow zoom in onto Frank and into his room. It was oof.
That was really
it was
cool.
a nice push right in. It was gorgeous. Just a little.
It was.
They should use that as a slogan. It was a nice push.
It was a
It
nice
was a
push.
nice push.
In front of a bus.
So then we have the mayor. He declares the state of emergency in the District of Columbia, and they're going to use the $3 billion that's in this disaster relief fund.
And right before hurricane season.
Right before hurricane season. I mean, this is a huge risk that they're taking, and
But here's my question: is Frank doing this, trying to pull this $3 billion, so he can get? As leverage, he's going to use this as leverage, so that way he's going to tell the head of the what is his name, the head of the Republicans.
Oh, Mendoza.
And the head of the
Bob.
Yeah, he's going to tell them, okay, I won't take this $3 billion if you guys get on board with AmWorks.
I think he's trying to use AmWorks in DC as a microcosm for the rest of the country. Remember, he wants AmWorks to work across the board in all states. And so he's using this as a way to show not just the public at large, but also the people that are voting against, that are trying to to get that off the table. Look, this worked here. It can work for the rest of the nation.
I just wasn't sure if he was using this $3 billion as like leverage to like encourage bipartisanship to get them on board with
He's
him.
already using it.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's well, I mean, not gone, but
his intention is to use that money for AmWorks.
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
in place. There's
Yeah.
no bluffing going on.
Got it.
Unless I misunderstood.
No.
But he is.
Which is when I started seeing Mendoza and
Bob. I call him Bob.
Bob work together. I was like, oh, I wonder if maybe that's what he was aiming for there. But whatever.
I mean, that's why he went to the governor, the mayor.
The mayor.
Sorry, that's why he went to the mayor to present this plan, to present this idea, because he wants, like I said, he wants AmWorks to work all across the board.
And the issue is, now that they've tapped into the relief fund, if something were to happen, like a hurricane or an earthquake or something devastating, when you have drained the funding, you are going to see a lot. It's just a risk that is difficult to, first of all, predict, because it's
Natural
Mother Nature, yeah.
Mother Nature, though.
Yeah.
Though let me
Seems
tell
like
you,
a risky.
let me tell you, in
risky bet to take.
Florida, there will be hurricanes come hell or high water. There will be. But when you think about it, it's so odd to think about natural disasters, especially from a political perspective, because it's just this entirely different, uncontrollable force. So, yeah.
But Frank was saying, like, if there is a natural disaster, there are other ways for them to give that money back.
Well, yeah, I think Frank said something like, well, and if a disaster hits, then Congress will just replenish the funds like they always do. And I'm like, it's not that easy.
Not
is it?
$3
It's
billion.
not
You have
$3
to.
billion.
You can't just make it like bring up money from nowhere. You have to
exactly.
take it from another. There's the set number of. I think this is how a budget works. There's like a set amount of money, and you have to you have to bring it from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a very big risk. Either you put however many people are going to go to work through the AmWorks program to work, or you assist the people that are going to be going through this natural disaster, which we don't know yet, I guess, at this point in the episode, if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that's the risk.
It's crazy. He really bullied this through. I mean, he requested a resignation from the Homeland Security, the head of Homeland Security,
The
and
word tyrant was brought up.
Oh, yes.
so he was no holds barred.
Yeah.
But that's
he
the
was
way
making a
he's.
speech.
That's the way he's run his campaigns. That's the way he's not his campaign. That's the way he runs his ship. He's someone who runs like a tyrant.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's just he's never had this amount of power to utilize.
Right.
And, there've been shades all over,
Right.
but now that he's the leader of the free world, then we're seeing just how far that can go. And the word tyrant was brought up, and I'll get more into the specifics of my feelings about that when we get into the propaganda book. But you really see in this kind of instance how these people find their way into power. Obviously, our system is very specific. But when there are two sides, I guess what I'm getting at and kind of articulating poorly is that there are two sides to it. Yes, he's getting things done, but in a way that is very tyrannical. He's not really going through the checks and balances system. So it's kind of a, shoot, yes, he's actually doing something, and so many of the complaints are that politicians can't get anything done, but at the same time, they can't get things done for a reason because we have a bipartisan government for a reason. So,
We need to talk about Baldwin, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she comes in. She's the new Telegraph reporter. She meets with Seth, kind of goes off on him about getting rid of Isla, but they have no idea this new girl is about to bring twice as much trouble. And she goes and she meets with Silva, and he gives her a folder of all the meteorological data about this hurricane coming up, so that he's kind of trying to make headlines.
She couldn't get anyone to go on the record for her.
Yeah. But she ends up writing these two huge stories anyway.
I had it down. The human cost of raiding FEMA and President Sachs Homeland Security. Two
Awesome
side by
headlines.
side.
Yeah, side by side. And obviously Frank sees this and blows up.
I know what he said. You kicked out a pit bull and let in a dragon.
that was awesome. That was awesome. And in ways, he's absolutely right.
He is.
I go back and forth on this because there's my objective self and then there's my I love House of Cards self. And my objective self is going, good. Way to go, journalism. Fight the power. This is absolutely it's not unconstitutional technically, even though most of the things that he's done to get into power are unconstitutional. But I go back and forth because I want for him, because I love House of Cards, but I also want for the journalists.
To be honest, I honestly think that when it's Frank versus media, that's like my favorite House of Cards drama. I think. Like,
okay.
I like the foreign stuff. I like the kind of interpersonal stuff, but I love when the journalists are involved.
Well, it's more, to me anyway, I don't know about you, but to me it brings up more of the morality, because when it's just on the individuals, like when it's, you know, him, U.S. versus Russia, or him versus this one person in Senate or what have you, it draws less of a perspective.
Because when we as like Quinn and Julian and Autumn and Pegah, when we're watching the politics, that's how we get our news.
Exactly.
We don't get to see the inside. So whenever it's like connected to him in the media, that's when all of a sudden things start to look pretty familiar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's where the perspective comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you realize that they're not such good people. And we probably shouldn't be rooting for them, but we do.
We do. It's TV.
So while all this is going on, Claire is fighting her own battles. She learns that, where does she go off to? She's meeting with the ambassadors, but I didn't know if it was...
She was in New York.
New York, okay. So she learns that Palestine is going to be withdrawing from this peace initiative because Israel is.
Yes.
And Israel is because they don't believe that the U.S. will actually send the troops to the location once this is agreed upon. Yes. So she decides to stop the whole vote because everybody's all over the place and not agreeing.
You have to postpone the vote because then you lose.
Yeah, you'll lose it. Anything else on that part?
Interesting. Do you guys think that, I mean, even if Frank hadn't issued the executive order, do you think that they would have sent troops? Do you think
I
it was
think
like
so. I never got.
I never got an
feeling
indication.
that it was-
Yeah, I didn't
She
either.
seemed pretty adamant in explaining when she received the news that they were pulling out not Pakistan. I'm sorry, Israel.
Yeah, it felt so weird for that to even be a problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So I think he would have done it anyway.
Right.
So I was like, this seems like a lot of drama for, I don't know, for no reason. But
Well, from their perspective, I think it's understandable because, I mean, now we're going to get into, you know, greater politics.
Let's do it.
So I'll say this. It's understandable that any country has their best interest in mind. The United States, Israel, any country will have their best interest in mind, as they should ultimately, because it's their own nation and then obviously foreign policy, and everyone wants to get along, but they don't. And my point is, I can understand why, if a country feels like they are going to be threatened, that they would be hesitant to it's not as simple as putting in a good word. It's, you know, there will be consequences to whatever they do, and because every action has a consequence, I can understand why Israel or any other country would be a little hesitant to support a country if they weren't necessarily sure that they would get something.
yeah, it just
Support
felt
them,
like she was so. I mean, Claire has been behind this in every sense.
Yeah, but
that
I see her from her perspective.
No, of course, but this is months and months have gone by. You know,
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to take a quick second to talk about iTunes really quick. Make sure to check us out on iTunes. We have tons of shows on there. Give us 5 stars, please. Give us a good rating. It'll help us keep all this free
Stuff running.
Yeah, keep our doors open here at AfterBuzz. So yeah, please check us out on iTunes.
That's a great call to action. That was really good.
Thank
Round of
you.
applause.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Thanks. I should run for something.
I was gonna say 2016.
Yeah.
For president.
So where did we leave off here?
What's happening with my mic?
So the so Dunbar goes and meets who's that guy? Please.
At which point?
Give me his name.
Sorry.
She goes and meets with him, and he brings up the whole Jordan Valley thing on the screen, and he says, you know, this is not really about Corrigan.
I'm remembering this,
is
yeah.
really about
It was-
troops being in the southern part of Russia, and kind of gives her the down low on all of that.
That's right. Okay.
Do you remember that?
No.
Hello.
I'm sorry, I blinked.
No, it's okay.
I blinked for 2 seconds, and a whole plot line escaped me. No, I do remember what you're talking about because
foreign policy. Something about foreign policy.
I remember this specifically because he had an iPad and he was doing something on the iPad and it was coming up on the screen and I had a moment where
right, okay.
I had such a filmmaker moment where I'm wondering if it's actually connected or if it's pre-programmed.
Probably green screen.
It's like, can you pinch to zoom on the iPad and it will do the same on the screen?
I feel like that's basic technology,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sure.
I was thinking that too.
And that's why I missed the plot line.
Wow, note to self.
But wait, he sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just that he was telling Dunbar that like Petrov, Corrigan isn't being detained because of
freedom of speech.
Yeah, because Petrov was trying to appeal to his traditional fan base. It's because of what's happening in the Jordan Valley, and he's trying to make a point, and he needs leverage.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point when it comes to Israel, is that it affects more than, yes, they say that they're going to deploy troops, but I understand them wanting absolute security because they are at risk. And Israel is always at risk.
Yeah.
So
I love that they gave Frank a little bit of credit here, being like, if this plan works out, he should get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
And I love that they were giving like a little bit of credit to him. I thought that was like super, super interesting. It's always interesting to see what people are saying about Frank when he's not in the room.
Right. That he was being too smart is what they said. Like, how can he be too smart?
Oh, you can be too smart.
Yeah.
You can think yourself into a hole. That is absolutely true. Moves and counter moves.
Yeah. So Frank meets with Mendoza and Bob, and again, they're like, if we could write a law about you using these disaster relief funds, we will, because this is not right. We'll also impeach you. We're not, scared of doing that, because obviously in the past.
We've impeached presidents before.
Yeah.
Very recently.
So he's still kind of getting fought with about this issue. What's next? I'm trying to... We talked all about this whole Jackie getting married and stuff. We kind of went out of order, guys. Stay with
we
us.
didn't talk about
We're all over it.
God's Cauldron writer. What is his
Tom
name?
Yates.
Tom Yates.
Yes.
Okay. We haven't talked
Yes.
about that yet.
Love this guy.
Yeah.
God,
Love
I'm
this
into
guy.
this guy. Right? Love him. Can't wait to see
brains.
He's got brains. He's pretty handsome.
Yeah.
So into it.
So he thinks for himself. He's a mind.
Yeah.
Calm down, ladies.
He wrote the video game reviews for the game that Frank was playing. So he's like, if you can convince me to play this game under 100 words or whatever it was, then I want you to write my book, and I want you to do a darn good job of selling my story, selling AmWorks, using your imagination and really just speaking to the people. So he hires Tom to come on. Propaganda.
Straight up propaganda.
Yeah.
course.
Interesting
Yeah.
that this guy didn't take a lot of persuading either.
I'm sure writing for the president has its own kind of motivation.
I mean, he seems like a pretty he seems like a little bit of an anarchist. So I'm like, interested that he's like,
Let's see where it goes.
yeah,
Yeah, I
exactly.
think it's
yeah,
less
I'm
that-
definitely curious.
Oh, I'm very curious about him, but Frank touches on that because he basically says no good writer could resist a good story or something along the lines of that. And so I think that it's less that he's supporting the president and more that he's so intrigued by this opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Because who gets that opportunity
Right.
to write?
He's appealing to his ego.
And also, do you
appealing to
guys
his
think that we need to be like, because it seemed like that his new book wasn't doing as well as his old book? And maybe it's something about that. Like maybe he needs like a a career boost here because he had that one girl come into his new book signing with his old book, and he's like, all right, remember to read the new one.
She's like, I'll get it on my Nook.
Yeah, my Kindle.
My Kindle. There we go.
I think it absolutely has everything to do with that. I mean, this guy is coming off the heels of a really successful first book, and it's hard to follow that up. I mean, this book put him on the map, and so what better way to follow up than to do a story about what happens, or I guess do a story with the president, about the president, or about something that the president wants, to pass through into law. So, it's definitely appealing to his ego, but it's definitely also appealing to his need to succeed or one-up himself.
Yeah, we're also assuming that he's going to write what Frank wants.
Oh no, I'm not assuming that at all.
No, I don't think so. I think I'm not assuming that at all. I agree with you. I think it's more along the lines of curiosity and seeing where things go.
Yeah.
that's kind of where I feel like he's going in his mind.
And he could do a lot of damage.
Mr.
Yeah, because he
Yates.
keeps
Oh,
on
God.
asking questions to Frank, and then Frank will turn and ask a question about him, and he's like, "This book's not about me, Mister. Like, let's not talk about me."
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then the last part. Oh my God,
All
we
right.
all want to talk about this part. Claire and her. Wow.
Shade McGade.
Shade McGade, but
Yeah.
just
So good.
Like, I can't even find the words to describe.
Almost
how
like
amazing.
hanging on Frank's words, like ready to say what she was gonna say, which is I don't know. I don't want to give it away.
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's the next episode.
Sorry.
She goes and she talks to the Russian ambassador
Alexei.
Alexei while she's in the restroom, and he like doesn't want to go in there, but her assistant or whatever was like, "No, please, she has to go catch a flight." And he goes in, and just the way she was putting on her makeup and then asking, like, "My eyes, are they okay? My lips, what is it?" And he's like, "You look great," you know. But he's so
Playing
shy.
mind games.
Yes.
Oh, it's such a wonderful power play because she's making him incredibly uncomfortable.
And she's also making herself as un-first lady-like as possible because this whole thing has been about, like, you make a great first lady, not so much a U.S. ambassador. And so now she's just trying to take off that mask in front of him and just be like, who's first lady now?
Yeah, and almost it was such. In ways, it was leveling the playing field in like let's just talk you and me personal, not with all of this, in the most
No pretense.
intimate, no pretense, but in the same way,
No formality.
no formality, but also it's not that at all because it's I own you.
Yeah.
Bringing him into the women's restroom, especially for. I mean, she is the first lady. She is, and I mean, there's the whole fact that he's, I'm sure, never. If he's been into the women's restroom, it's not in the White House, and it's not, or
Just to talk.
yeah, exactly. It's not just to have a conversation about.
Yeah, no good intentions there.
No. So it was totally throwing him off balance and making him immediately feel like he's out of his comfort zone because he is both emotionally and physically. So she could just manipulate him and play with him in whatever way that she wants.
I mean, she doesn't even close the stall door. Like, she could have
Yeah.
closed the stall door and
No,
still
she
she
didn't.
closed
No, she
it
didn't.
and then opened it
opened
back,
it back
and
up,
said,
yeah.
"Oh, did you think we were done here?"
Yeah, and I'm like, no, she's not. Like, she's sitting on the toilet. So she tells him that the executive order was made that 5,000 U.S. troops are going to be sent.
And we need Michael Corrigan released also.
Yes, and
Please
just
hand me a
slips
towel.
that in there. So once Russia sees that they're kind of cornered, I mean, Israel's going to be back on, Palestine's going to be back on, so they kind of have to be back on as well. He's like, okay, I'll talk to Petrov. Like, I'll see what I can do about Corrigan. And she's like, thanks. Like,
Yeah.
bye.
I
And
know.
in the back of her head, she's like, yeah, you're going to talk to Petrov. And yeah, I'm going to see what he's going to do about Corrigan because I just told you what he's going to do.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely the first time we've seen season 1 and season 2 Claire come out.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen her like that at all this season.
Yeah, she's been very reserved, kind of almost insular. Like, I don't know, just very in her head.
I just think that she's losing confidence left and right.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
And she was in total control here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I like seeing that side of Claire
Oh, yeah.
a lot.
No, I like it better this way when we lost it a little bit because I didn't realize how much I missed it until we hadn't seen it in 5 or in 6 episodes or whatever. And so then to see it come back out and you're just like, I thought we were missing something.
Yeah, she's
And it's
back.
you being a total and complete badass.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Yeah. So they're driving away, and Frank gets a phone call, and I guess they find out that they are going to Moscow. And he goes, "You did it, Claire. You made a miracle happen." And she's like, "We did it." I'm like, "Oh, dang, she's coming back around." She's now kind of.
She
being more-
apologized, didn't she, for not letting him sleep in the bed?
Yeah, I
She
think
did.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, over the
Totally.
cigarette. They are, they had a
They had a cigarette.
They shared a
Speaking
cigarette.
of season 1, season 2.
Yeah. Oh, I loved that. I love their little window cigarette sessions.
Yeah.
No.
That's where
That's
where
when
the connecting
they're
happens.
yeah, exactly. That's when they're most themselves and they see each other. They really truly see each other and are themselves
Because
with each other.
Yeah, cigarette's definitely a symbol of,
It's the link.
and a cigarette is gross and dirty and it's unrefined, and that's kind of when they get to be themselves and they
Yeah.
kind of get to take the mask off a little bit.
Like it.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh, yeah, I like
Yes.
that. Analysis is great. Sorry.
And our very last scene, we see the people lining up over by the Lincoln Memorial for this AmWorks. Everybody's signing up for jobs. And this scene, talk about how it was shot. I mean, it was like faces and faces and faces and it just kept going. I'm like, okay,
And
like,
then?
what are we going to see? And then it's Freddie.
My heart. That
If
wasn't
anybody
fair.
deserves a job,
It's Freddie.
it's Freddie. Get that man a job.
Do you know I actually go out and buy ribs sometimes while watching House of Cards? It's like a thing I do with my friends. We go and we get ribs and we watch House of Cards.
I don't blame
love
you.
that.
I don't blame you at all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
Freddie, that hurt me.
Yeah.
That wasn't fair, writers. That was just a cheap shot.
Yeah, but just the way the fireworks, and you could see it in his eyes, and it's like a
Yeah.
glimmer of hope that he has, and it was just really well done.
It was really cool. What a great way to end that episode.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Well, for him, the thing about it for him, the reason it kind of broke my heart is you remember that he's in the unemployment line. And it was just like, I loved the contrast of you have like the triumphant music in the background and the fireworks.
And they're right smack dab in the middle of the mall, aren't they? The National Mall.
Were they in the National Mall? I thought they were outside.
Yeah, like the Lincoln.
Whatever, they were around like all of the most
yes.
most
Yes,
prestigious
that's true.
buildings
Yeah, like
in the
this-
country.
You're right.
Absolutely. And there was this beautiful juxtaposition of the triumphant music and his like rousing speech and the fireworks and all of the unemployed people. Because, yeah, they're signing up for jobs, but these people do not have them as of now. That is
Yeah.
so damn awful,
I know.
including this one person who we recognize, Freddie, who we love, or at least I
Yeah,
love.
it's nice to put
I
a
loved
face. It's
him.
nice to put a face to the unemployed people.
Well,
you
yeah,
know what I mean?
And you're reminded of the people, the common man that we don't really see in this show.
And they're really quite they're really what is the word I'm looking for? They can't be held accountable for their innocence. They're all innocents, is what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And especially Freddie, you know what I mean? So you just like your heart kind of goes out.
You're like, Freddie. All right, guys, that's our episode. Where can the people find you?
The people can
The
the
lovely
common
people.
man,
The lovely
if you
people.
will,
Peasants.
the plebeians. No, our dearest viewers, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Autumn Chiklis.
You can find me at Julian Dujarric on Twitter and Instagram.
And you can find me on Twitter at Quinn Scillian. You can find me on Instagram at Quinstagram. And if you need a laugh after all this House of Cards, you can find me on Vine at the Quinn Bee.
Ooh, and you can find me on Twitter at Pegah Rad. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you next time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.